Good morning, everyone, and thank you for your time today. All right, so as Don was saying, we're going to jump straight into the reporting component. And I'd just like to reiterate that everything that you're going to be seeing, the data is completely fictitious, and it has been manufactured. There's no reference to anybody living or past. All right, having said that, our first question, first use case was the patient profile. So what you're looking at here is our launchpad. So this is the portal that shows you all of the reports that you can execute. I'm going to be running the adult pre-appointment checklist. And what this is, this report is designed to be able to look at, your daily huddle. Who am I seeing today? What should I be thinking about with my patients? And hopefully this hasn't timed out. There we go. All right, let me click on finish. So I can get a report that looks like this every day, whether it's sitting on the physician's desk, it's in their email waiting for them when they come in. But here's who I'm seeing, and here are all the different things I should be thinking about. Like Don said earlier, this is customizable, so this is designed for your family practitioner. If you have specialties, whether it's, you noticed we had a pediatric version of this, you may have specialties like cardiology or something along those lines, and the columns that you're seeing in here might vary depending on specialty. So we allow you to extend this and make it really customizable and meet your exact requirements. So you'll notice that we use color coding. It's a great way to visually represent where you should be spending time and what you should be thinking about. But one of the challenges with color coding is, what does it mean? Why is it yellow? What does red mean, etc. So what we've done is we've created our data dictionary, and it really empowers the end user. And it says, here's all the different things on the report, here's all the different color coding, and here's what they mean, what you should be thinking of, whether it's required or not, etc. So we really want to make the tool as easy to use as possible and empower the end user. The other thing that we've done over here, and you'll notice this on all of our clinical reports, is that you can drill into the individual patient, right? So it's one thing to say, here's what we need to think about today for their visit, but let me take a look at this patient in more detail. All right, so we have our patient profile report, and this goes and gives you further information like previous visits, who are the different providers that this patient has seen, are they at risk for any chronic conditions, and if so, what are the different metrics that we should be looking at for those. We've had customers extend this to include immunizations and lab data, etc. So it really does lend itself to giving you that full 360-degree view of your patient. Right. Some other things that come standard with the IBM Cognos toolset that's really useful is you have the ability to export all of these reports into different formats. So having it in HTML format is great. I can view it on the web. But what happens if I want to put it in Excel and do something a little bit more with it? So you can always output these to Excel or PDF or XML. So you really have a number of different ways that you can consume this data and visualize it using the different formats, whatever's more comfortable for you. Okay. All right. So coming back. Oops. All right. So we spoke a little bit about the patient profile and being able to see who we're going to be seeing today and what we should be thinking of. Let's talk a little bit now about some of the missing treatments. So again, the concept here is you want to be proactive in managing your patient population. So knowing that that you have a particular patient coming in that's missing an immunization, it's good to know at the time of the appointment that you can make sure that you update the EMR if they've had their flu shot, say for example at the local pharmacy. But you might want to do an outreach program to make sure that you're up to date on all of your immunizations. If you are moving, meaningful use, obviously having up-to-date immunizations is important. ACO, PCMH, any of those, that's something that you need to show that you're being proactive in managing your patient population. And this is a great report that allows you to actually view that specific subset of the population. So, we're going to take a look here. Let me change this to our pediatric group. And I'm going to run it for Dr. Clark. And I'm going to say here, show me everyone that's over 2 and missing an immunization. So this is what we call our exception report, or a patient recall list. Right? These are the patients that we want to reach out to and say, hey, you missing something, you need to come in. Or we want to give it out to our care coordinators or our quality control group to make sure that these patients are being reached out and we can have them come in for their appointments. Now again, you notice we use color coding here. You would never see a patient that's green all across the board. If they're up to date on all of the immunizations, well, we don't need to reach out to them. They're good. So, you know, the goal of these reports is you want to get this number of patients here down to as small a number as possible. So one of the things that, as we went through developing our content, we have a saying that visibility breeds accountability. So this really does allow the physicians or the care managers or whoever it is in the organization to see what is happening at a much more global level rather than just focusing in on individual patients and at the point of care. This allows you to take that step back and view the population as a whole. All right. So one of the things that you'll notice here is we have the contact list. So it's really good to have, here's my list of patients, what do I do with it? You don't have to go back into the EMR to say, all right, let me go look up this patient, get their email, send them a message, or put it up on the portal. We actually, from this report, allow you to view the patient contact list, which will go and give you all of the information that you need in terms of being able to reach out to these patients. And again, because we're in IBM Cognos, you can export this out to Excel, and you have now a real easy way to do a mail merge, if you liked, or let me just open this up to give you a quick idea of what it looks like. Right? So here's that same report now sitting in Excel that I can actually, you know, like I said, do my mail merge with it, or print it out, or give it over to somebody else to take the next step. Close that up. All right. Okay. So our next use case here is going to be patient population. So this basically comes down to, how do I find patients that meet specific criteria? If we jump back to the use case, it was show me all my diabetic patients that are male, that are past due, that are missing something. So what we have is, I like to call this my ad hoc light report. So this really allows you, the user, to interact with the data without having to worry about too much about creating ad hoc reports and filtering it in different ways. We have some predefined filters that actually allow you to get to that patient list very quickly and very easily. So for example, I might say, show me all of my males that do not have an up-to-date LDL result. And I'm going to say, reprompt that. And what this will do is rerun the report for me now and show me just the patients that meet this specific criteria, right? So you can see that we were able to filter that down pretty quickly and get to a meaningful list, right? So this tool here really allows you to find that needle in the haystack. Say, you know, I want to implement a program, I want to reach out to a specific group of people. What does that population look like? How am I going to find them? How am I going to get to them? Okay. So the next one that we had was doctor performance, right? So this is always really interesting. You know, how are we comparing as an individual? You know, as a physician, how am I comparing against my peers? How am I comparing against the group as a whole? You know, is somebody doing something that is improving the patient population that I can learn from? Am I doing something that, you know, other people can learn from too? So, you know, this is a great way to, again, look at that population as a whole and visualize it in new ways. So let me take, I'm going to compare myself, my evil twin. So what this report does is it takes a look at the different care categories that you need to worry about with diabetics. So there's labs, there's immunizations, etc. And let me zoom out a little bit so you can see it. But what this basically allows you to do is take a look as a provider for these different metrics, for my HbA1c, LDL, eye exam, microalbumin, etc. All of those different components. How am I doing as an individual provider, and how is my practice doing, and how is the group as a whole doing, right? This can be extended in multiple ways. If you wanted to put in benchmarks or national standards, whatever, you have that ability to do that. So you can actually get a great way to view how you are doing in terms of managing a specific population of your patients. And one of the things that we do, if you'll take a look at all of our lab results and all of our tests, etc., we have the concept here of not current. So what that allows you to do is say, if the last time I went for a lipid panel test was 3 years ago, I really shouldn't be included in any population because it's not, it's stale, it's old. It shouldn't be in any of these other categories. So we create our own custom category for the not current, and the goal here again is to bring this number down as low as possible, right? Are you proactively managing your patients? Are you going and making sure that your diabetics are going in for their tests on a regular basis, right? If they have their diabetes controlled, it should be every 6 months. If they're not controlled, it should be every 3 months. And all those kind of good things, we have these rules that we work with you to define them, and our rules-based engine goes and determines these categories and statuses for each of your patients. So it's, again, that visibility breeding accountability, how am I doing, how can I be more proactive in terms of managing my patients, right? Okay. All right, so where were we? We got through doctor performance. Tracking a program initiative. So what we have for this one is a really great tool. It's our chronic disease dashboard. And what this allows you to do is view your patient population at that 50,000-foot level and then drill into greater levels of detail. We have our analytic that we take any chronic condition or any patient population for that matter, and we break it down into different categories of care. So in the case of diabetics, there's approximately 18 different metrics, 18 different things that you should be thinking of for each of your diabetic patients, right? There's lab results, you're making sure you're going through your lipid panel, you're doing your HbA1c, your immunizations, are you up to date on pneumococcal and flu? What's from a vitals perspective, your BMI, your blood pressure, all those kind of good things. And we group these different categories or these different components into what we call categories of care, so that you can look at it at that 50,000-foot view and say, where should I be focusing my attention? What am I doing? What are we doing as a practice or as a group that's working, and what are we doing that's not working? How can we be more proactive in terms of managing our patients? So what we're looking at here is, over time, how we're doing in managing our patients. So I'm going to dive into our in-office procedure, and what this will do is then break that down to that next level and say, okay, so within in-office procedure, we should be making sure that we have patients that are up to date with their diabetes care visit. Have they had their eye exam, their foot exam, etc. And we allow you to graphically represent this data across time and across different practices. And we can change our time range over here to, for example, 18 months. And as Don was talking about a little bit earlier, you have the ability to define these programs and identify whether changes that you've made within the organization have been effective or not. Right, so things are not going to change dramatically overnight. You want to be able to say, hey, we implemented a program 6 months ago, a year ago, whatever the case might be. Has it been effective? So if we take a look at our diabetes care visit, a program was implemented back in December. There was a downward trend, right? leveled out a little bit at the start of the program, and then we saw dramatic improvement in terms of our patients being up to date for their diabetes care, and now it's coming back down again. So, you know, we see it starting to see a bit of a cycle here. Maybe it's time to refresh that program and get our patient, you know, make sure that our providers are being proactive in getting our patients back in for their visits, right? So there's an example of something that's been relatively successful. This program also, which was, you know, the number of visits, well, that didn't seem to have a big effect there. So it really allows you to look over time and say, has this been effective? Do we want to pilot this and roll it out? Or we piloted this over the last 6 months. It's working great. Let's roll it out to everybody. Or you know, it's not working. How do we tweak it to make it better? So at the end of the day, really, it comes down to two things in terms of managing patient care. There's two ways you can improve it. One is either through the patient, right, making sure that they come in, that they do things correctly. The other way is through the provider, right? Is the provider doing everything that they should be doing? Is there a specific provider that's bringing the numbers down, for example? So if we take a look, if we dive in here into the diabetes care visit, we can actually go look at the individual providers within that practice and go and see, is this something that's occurring within the practice as a whole, or is it just one individual provider that's you know, skewing the numbers in one direction in one way or the other? So it really does give you that ability to, you know, if you need to do, put in a program, whether it's additional training. You know, one of the things that we run across very often is providers are not putting their notes in the correct place in the EMR, right? They might just be putting it as raw text or as a memo field, or it's a dictation. Well, that's great. Yes, it's in the EMR, but we can't analyze it. So you need to make sure that they're clicking the correct checkboxes so that you can report on it and do your analysis. So this is a great way in terms of being able to identify those types of things and take action with your providers, right? The other way to look at this too is saying, okay, so our providers are doing everything that they can. How do we help our patients? How do we reach out to those patients? So we have the ability, again, pretty much on all of our reports, to get to the patient list, right? I need to reach out to these patients. They are past due on their appointments. They're past due on their lab results, whatever the case might be. But here's a way that I can reach into them, find that list of patients that are missing certain criteria, and make sure that we can take proactive steps to help them with their care. Okay, so that was quite a bit to ingest. Hopefully, let me just close all the other tabs out here. So that kind of rounds out all of the predefined reporting that you have that we offer. I mean, there's a ton. You can see there's a lot of other different reports in here, but the basic concept is you want to be able to look at either your clinical side, being able to look at individual patients, see how they're doing, be able to produce your patient recall list so you can get them in, make sure that you are being proactive in managing their care, or being able to look at a higher level, which comes in terms of our analytics over here, and be able to start at that 50,000-foot view and drill down to the individual provider and patient level of detail, right? So, but regardless of how many reports that you have, there's always going to be someone who wants something more, right? Wants to look at it a slightly different way. And within Cognos, we actually have two ways that you can do ad hoc analysis. And the first one really is the ad hoc dashboards, right? How many times have you sat and said, you know, I love this graph from this report and I love that graph from that report. I want a dashboard that brings it all together. And 9 times out of 10, that becomes a request that you send off to IT, and it gets filed away somewhere, and eventually it bubbles up to the surface, and you get a version of the report that you thought that you wanted. Well, one of the powerful tools that we have with the Cognos toolset is the ability for you to define your own dashboards. This is designed for the end user, and what it allows you to do is bring content from any report anywhere in the system that you have access to, and literally drag and drop it onto this dashboard. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to go through and say, I'm going to go and drag data from another report. All right, and that's a few clicks and I get there, but I'm going to take my combination of blood pressure. Sorry, I lied. I want my list. And I'm going to drag and drop it in here, right? Let's try that again. Okay, and what this is going to do is actually put it straight onto the report for me, and now this becomes part of my dashboard. So while that's going on, I'm going to say, well, this is great, but I want to be able to filter this now, right? I don't want to have to just be reliant on what practice has been selected over here. I want to be able to control this diabetes control status, right? I don't want to include the not current. So again, typically or historically, that used to be a new request that would go off and you would change the way the report is laid out, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, we have the ability here to drag and drop prompts onto the page. And what this does is now as it goes off and it says, okay, what are all the different things that I could be filtering and how are things similarly defined across the different charts and tables that you have. So it notices that diabetes control status is available on all of the charts plus the, so on the 3 combination charts. I'm going to say I want to filter it by that. You have the ability here to select multiple values and a whole bunch of ways that you can change the defaults, but I'm just going to leave it the way that it is for right now. And what this will do is it's going to hook in this prompt to these 3 charts now. So what I can do is I can say I don't want to include the not current, and I'm just going to leave that the way that it is, hit apply, and this will now go and update those 3 charts to exclude the not current status, right? And you'll notice they're all showing practice 7. That's because we have practice 7 selected. When I select a different practice, because all 4 of them are defined by the practice, you'll see here that it goes and changes them too, right? So it's a really very powerful way to empower your end users to make the reports and make the visualizations that they want while alleviating the stress from the IT group, right? Letting them do what their strengths are, which is making sure that the data is available for the end users and is good and can be relied on, right? So it's a really, really powerful way to look at the data, right? Some other things in here that's really nice is you have the ability to change the chart. So you might say, I don't like this chart. I want to visualize it as a bar chart or something along those lines. Let me just quickly click on here. You'll notice that we have a ton of different chart types that you can choose from. All right, let me click over here. We have bar charts and pie charts and areas, etc. So a really powerful charting tool that allows you to visually change the way that you're visualizing the data. But I'm actually going to change this now to a crosstab rather than a bar chart. And within one click, it's changed it for me. So it's a very easy way to do it. And I might say, well, let's say, for example, now I want to change the layout, right? I can click on this Do More button, and now I can get into some of the drag and drop features that allows me to, again, customize this and make it something that is meaningful for me today that I might want to use tomorrow too. So I can, for example, take this guy and say, I want to nest that in there. Right, and I'm going to say done, just something real quick. And now it's changed that layout for me, right? And I can save this the way that it is, come back tomorrow and it'll be right back up here. And again, because this is, I also have the ability here to actually bring it back to reset it to what it originally looked like on the original report. So I can tweak it, I can make it mine, and then if I decide I don't like it, I can set it back to the way that it looked when I first came in, right? Or what the report definition looks like. So very powerful tool, very easy to use, and for your end users, it's a really great way to allow them to interact with data in ways that they've never really been able to do before. and to take advantage of a lot of the content that's already been built on throughout the rest of the system and bring it all together. Okay. I'm going to leave this page. Now, the last thing that I want to show you is our ad hoc capabilities. So what we're going to do here is actually go and create a ad hoc report from scratch. And let me see, I'm going to allow my access in here and let me maximize this. I'm going to take 2 seconds to explain real quickly to you how the tool works. So I'm going to create a list, just a simple list report. And what's displayed to me on the left-hand side here is the ability, this is my workbench, if you will. It's my page where I'm going to build my reports. I can create multiple lists and crosstabs and all those kind of good things, and we're not going to go into that today. But this page over here is basically what's going to be, the report will become. On the right-hand side here is the metadata layer. So this is the link that I have to the data, and this allows me to create my custom queries, my ad hoc query that's going to bring the data that I'm particularly looking for today. One of the things I'd like to touch on really quickly is one of the concerns that we have, that we run across is, okay, this is great, but now you're exposing the data to everybody, and how do we make sure that you only have access to the patients that you're supposed to be seeing, or you're not supposed to see the social security number, or you're not supposed to see their salary, or whatever the case might be. Cognos has a very powerful security engine that controls visibility and access to different content. So you can define groups of users, etc., that are allowed to see certain columns, allowed to see certain reports or folders, and control their access to the content that way. And then within that security model, we can actually control who's allowed to see access to which rows of data. So there's a very powerful data security engine too that says, okay, you're allowed to see patients, you can see all the information about a patient, but you can only see this particular set of patients, right? Or you can only look at it at a practice level, you can't view it at the detail level. So we have, using the features and functionality of the Cognos tool, plus our security model, we really can control access at a very, very granular level to make sure that you don't run into any HIPAA compliance issues. All right, so having said that, I'm going to create the dashboard. The query that I want to do today is, what percentage of my patients have their LDL controlled, right? So for all the different practices that we are monitoring, what percentage of their patients have their LDL controlled? So you'll notice we have the folders. It's a great way to group like sets of data so that it's easy for users to find the information that they want. And this is drag and drop. So you'll notice that I'm not going to write any queries. I don't have to worry about how or where the data comes from. And it's all drag and drop. I put it on the report, and there it is. And I don't have to run the report in order to see the result. It's very much a WYSIWYG environment. What you see is what you get. So if I make a mistake, I can correct it really quickly. All right, so we're looking at diabetes. I'm going to come to my lab results. For those of you that are familiar with PCMH or meaningful use, the concepts of numerators and denominators, hopefully that's very near and dear to your heart. But basically what we have here is we have a rules-based engine that defines how each patient fits within the population. So if you are diabetic and you have your diabetes is up to, your panels are up to date, you're part of the denominator. If you are diabetic and you're up to date and you have an LDL value of above a certain amount, you're part of the numerator. So we have the rules-based engine that allows you to group your patients into these numerators and denominators so that you can do easy percent compliance type calculations. So I'm going to do that. Oh, I want to view this across time periods. So let me take a look at my month. Let's do our month full name. Drop that in here. Right. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to define, we've got some predefined filters. I just want to look at the last 12 months. Okay, so you can see it's very easy, drag and drop. Now, what I want to do is define a calculation, and it's literally as simple as highlighting the two that I want, and I'm going to choose one of the predefines. You can go and create your own custom one if you like, but this is my percent that I want to take a look at. All right, and let me quickly clean up over here. So I've got my two columns. Remove those from my report. And I want to make this a crosstab. I want to view my months going across the top. All right, I'm going to change the sort sequence. So that's it here. Quickly sort that. We don't want it alphabetical. We want it chronological. All right, great. So now I can actually go and take a look. I can see this data. In 2 minutes, I've been able to create a report that shows me historically how these numbers have been changing, right? Again, I can go and create I can go and report on this. I can create a line chart that would show me that information, right? And it'll, by default, use this chart for me and come up with a default layout so we can actually see how the individual providers are doing, right? Other things that we can do within here that really makes this a very powerful tool is you can define your conditional stylings, right? So let's create a new conditional style. We're going to base it off of our variance, and we create one and say anything that's less than 50%. We have predefined styles, so we can make that poor. And everything above 80%, we're going to make excellent. So I'm just going to make that. We'll just do it as a very simple color coding. You have, ultimate control over here. You can go and define your own style if you like. But 9 times out of 10, the predefines really work perfectly and give you all the capabilities that you need, right? So here in a few short steps, right, we've been able to take a look at generating this content that never really existed before in any layout that was useful to me. I wanted to create my own. This is my query of the day. So I've been able to create this. I now have the ability to save it, right? I don't want to have to go and create this every single time. I want to be able to come in and reuse this report. Just like network share drives, you have the ability to, you have your own private share that you can go and put your content in that no one else will have access to, or you can go and put it out onto the public folders so that you can share this content with other people. And again, once you save this out on the portal, you have the ability to drag that into the dashboard reporting that you saw earlier. So you can really go and customize it and tweak it and make it your own at any different level that makes sense to you. Okay, so I think that pretty much wraps up the use cases that I wanted to show you today. I'm going to hand it back off to Don.
Thank you, Steve. As you saw, using your NextGen data makes it pretty powerful. If you have an analytic on top as powerful as the IBM Cognos toolset with the LPA framework. The key takeaway, I think, is that you have all of the data now, clinical data in the NextGen environment. If you could get it out in a way like you saw today, you don't need to walk down the hall to IT. You can answer the questions as they come up. You can proactively drive better patient results by looking at what you have. So it goes back to what Steve had talked about that says if you can see it and you've got it visible, then you can start acting on it and you can make some good decisions about it. So what you saw today was a way to automatically pull data out of NextGen, organize it, look at dashboards and reports, and do ad hoc analysis as well. As I mentioned earlier, it doesn't have to be just NextGen data. You might want financial data, quality data, operational data, in which case you can pull that from other locations as well. The data warehouse and framework we have is extensible to an entire healthcare data model. This is your data, you own it. This is your environment, you own it. You can extend it with your IT group. You can extend it with your own report writers if you want. It's yours to use and to do the analytical decision making based upon it. Typically, when we will come into organizations, they talk about being able to do this. Even some of the EMR vendors talk about being able to do this, and it's true. There's no question that this is data that's organized in a way for analytics, and over time, you can build it yourself. You can get your IT group to build it. You can wait for the EMR guys to build it. The value of coming with LPA is that we have thought through these problems. We've figured out how to organize it. We've pre-built these 60, 80, 100 dashboards and reports, and you now get to your results faster, and you get to your decisions faster. You get to better improving patient populations better, and perhaps generating more revenue faster. So that's really the value add that LPA can provide in helping you jumpstart your efforts in this world. No webinar would be complete without me at least finishing up with how we can help. So you've seen one of the environments that we've built. We'd be glad to come and share with you specifics about your organization and show you a customized demo if you'd like. Just simply reach out to us. If you don't know where you're going, but you know you've got to get there, we'd be glad to help you with a roadmap and assess where you are and build a little step-by-step process that you could run on your own, or you could engage an LPA to help you to get to an analytical solution or a better business intelligence environment so that you can run your business better and get better patient population results. If you saw this demonstration, you said, wow, I'd like others to see it, please reach out to us. We'd be glad to set up a custom session and do a demonstration for your extended team. And as we talked about before, we're here to help you go faster. If we can do that, we'd love to, and that's all around enabling you, doing everything from doing it for you to enabling you to do it yourself, or anything in between, working either directly with you or with the organization. So that's our session today. Let me see if we have a couple of questions. Do we have any questions, Steve?
Yeah, one that came up was around training. So the question was, how do you go about making sure that both the users and the IT staff can support this going forward?
Okay, I didn't talk too much about training, but you can see that a lot of it is reasonably intuitive. It's your data, so you understand that end of it. LPA will provide training to a set of users as we implement our framework, if you'd like, a knowledge transfer, and we'll train some of the more advanced users if you want them to be able to build reporting and stuff. And there's also public training that IBM provides and others that's more formal if you would like a formal class on how to use the actual IBM Cognos tool set. So we're just about out of time here. I want to respect everybody's time. There's a couple of more questions that we'll have to reach out to individually. Again, thank you everybody for listening today, and if you have follow-up questions, by all means, reach out to Steve or me. You can contact us directly or go through our website, lpa.com, and request further follow-up. So again, thank you very much, and goodbye.